Coming to you live from downtown Detroit, this is Benzinga's PreMarket Prep with your host, Joel Elconin.
This is a volatile puppy here, isn't it?
And Dennis Dick.
I'm bidding a penny. I will buy the stock for a penny.
With everything you need to start your trading day. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this Wednesday edition of Benzinga's PreMarket Prep. Spencer Israel, Joel Elconin, Dennis Dick with you this morning. So there are days like yesterday where we just don't really have that much on our radar. And there are days like today when there is just a lot of stuff on our radar. There's earnings, Disney, Nikola, Square earnings leaked yesterday. They were supposed to report today. They leaked yesterday, so we'll talk about that. We have drug news from Moderna. Well, they had earnings too. And Novavax. We have our merger this morning, Teladoc and Livongo. And our guest is Gene Munster at 8:35. He's a managing partner at Loup Ventures. So a lot of stuff to get to on our show between the earnings from yesterday, earnings today, drug news, M&A, a lot going on. Gene, I'll throw it to Joel now. Before I do that, don't forget to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We appreciate that. Now, Joel, what is the update here in the overnight trading session?
Man, I'm tired already, man. You tired me out already, Spencer, with just that intro. Firmly in the green. The PP team was out in full force last night. Little bit of a sell-off, 32.92, your pre-market low. That looks safe for now. Pre-market high, 21.75, folks. Not much major resistance. 33.1750 was the close on the front month contract on February 21st. Fact, we are back to that level. Believe it or not, it took some time. Gold and silver, they're ripping too. Gold is up $35 at $20.56. Silver making a new high for the move, up 83 cents at $26.85. And crude, after that sleepy period, doesn't want to be left out in the rally. They're up $1.55 at $43.25. Last but not least, another asset class, at least for now, Bitcoin up $245 at $11,615. If you have a stock that's down, man, oh man, I don't know. Triple D, did you have a busy after hours?
Yeah, and it's been a busier pre-market session, I tell you, because obviously a lot more news here in the pre-market session with the merger. Gold ripping again. You didn't even mention gold there, Joel, not giving that love, but it ripped yesterday. It's ripping again. Silver is ripping again. We have a full-on reopening rally going on here too. If you look at the airlines, they were ripping, and you can thank Novavax for that, coming out with some decent data last night. I want to start with NVAX because this was a wild child last night, and you're not going to believe where this traded to. It was a headline that ended up being wrong, that some people were being hospitalized from their drug, and the stock got murdered. Then they said, no, that's not true, and the stock started rallying and hasn't stopped rallying since. This was an incredible story. Mr. Israel, enlighten us.
So, yeah, the confusion is that it did show a promising immune response, but there were there was a high rate of some side effects. So I think that's where the confusion was, and they reported what Novavax actually said in their release was that it was well, of course they're going to say it was a positive data, but between that and the side effects, I think is where the initial confusion lied. It was you can say positive phase 1 data because the immune response, which is what we're looking for, was apparently good, but there were some side effects to go with that. So back and forth.
So, Joel, last night, bring up this after hours chart on NVAX because they pulled the rug out from under this thing and slammed this stock down. At one point in time, it was down over 30%. Look at that purple candle. I love the purple color. So the purple ones are the down
Finally,
ones,
you like
and the
something
little
on my
light blue
charts.
ones. What are you saying?
Finally, you like something on my charts.
Well, I'm looking at it right now, and I'm looking to you can see my head turned over because I've got the charts over here and I have my trading in front of me, so that's why I'm always turning my head. But purple down, blue up. So the headline comes out, people getting hospitalized, and then they're like, oh no, wait a second. No, that's not true. Nobody's getting hospitalized, and it's doing really well. And so then they rallied all the way back, and then they're like, well, we better buy every other reopening stock because, hey, we got positive vaccine news, and positive vaccine news means you go and buy the airlines, you go and buy the cruise lines, you go and buy obviously casino stocks and wherever you want to, wherever else you want to go here. Disney ripping their earnings, but this Novavax helps them as well because obviously the Disney
Yes, it does.
back open. So I think you see even more of an impact on Disney to the upside. Obviously it was Disney Plus subs that are propelling it, but it doesn't hurt that Novavax says that they could actually be starting. And did you say this, Spencer? Again, somebody says I don't listen, which is probably true. Did you mention that? I believe on the conference call.
I did mention gold.
We're still on NVAX. I believe they said something about starting trials in September.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah, I didn't say that part. So on the conference call, they said that they are going to start the phase 3 trial as soon as late September. They could make as many as 1 to 2 billion doses next year.
So there you go. There you go. I mean, this is your classic reopening rally. And we started to see the rotation a couple of days ago where we talked about it. We had key reversals in Boeing. We talked about the key reversal in Boeing. And we talked about it, and we were like, if you want to start to nibble on some of these stocks, you can stop yourself out at the lows from 2 days ago. We talked about this on yesterday's show, which would have been yesterday's low at that time. Well, the rally continues, and it's obviously being propelled by news. We know there's always seems to be positive vaccine headline. It says it comes out twice a week. Well, they're ripping them higher on this. So if you're looking this morning, IWM definitely outperforming QQQ significantly. QQQs are only up 0.3%. Stocks like Apple actually trading in the red because we know from a vaccine play, because we've learned this for the last three months, that when you get positive vaccine headlines, the reopening stocks rally and the stocks that are locked down like Peloton underperform. And you're seeing Peloton go down here today. And if you put a look at the Planet Fitness, well, Planet Fitness reported, so that's not a good example because PLNT reported last night. But normally, if it didn't report, PLNT would be up. So you know what, on Planet Fitness, and obviously crazy tangents there, but I don't want to leave that one without just saying it. $50 is huge on that. Hey, so go back to Novavax.
Wait, real fast. I just want to try something because I know some people are having some issues on the stream. I think it's a Zoom issue. So let me try this real fast. I'm just going to stop our stream. I'm going to refresh the stream here. So people on YouTube and I'll put in the chat there.
Yeah, mine's not working either.
Just refresh your page. Hold on 1 second. It's restarting here for a second. So we're going to restart the stream on YouTube. Maybe so YouTube and Zoom weren't talking to each other here this morning. Let's try that. And see if that's better. Okay, we are back, everyone. So just refresh the stream. Let's see if that does the trick because I know some people were having issues on that, but people are saying it worked. Good to go. Okay, back on topic. We were on Novavax, right?
Yeah, I'll do a quick recap and then Triple D, you could talk about, how you approached it. 103 low, and then you just made a high here. Oh boy, what is it? You made a high at 197.37. Actually, the pre-market high is 198.50. So you just have a little bit of a profit taker in this area, 197 to 198.50. I've seen the stock in the past on this kind of news, and if you don't get this thing 200 bid, pretty quickly, you could give a little of it back. But congratulations if you caught it on the way down. Someone's trying to work out a piece here just under 200. Triple D, did you get blindsided by this?
No, I didn't get blindsided by it. I try to trade off of it. So Novavax, the way I trade it is I know, XBI, when Novavax has a big move, XBI will follow to a certain extent. So I'm trading the less volatile play, obviously, but then I can trade it with size and I can get it on. And it's a lot less risk. But I was trying to short XBI right off the hop because you got XBI is 3.31%. It owns Novavax. So when Novavax goes down, 30%, well, XBI, that's a 1% move in XBI. So if you look at the XBI chart, it tanks on the Novavax after hours last night to the tune of getting down to low 112s. And then it started rallying. So then I'm like, okay, well, it's time to start covering, first of all, if you're short XBI, but not even that. It's time to actually try to start getting long. So I was able to actually get long some XBI. I wasn't quick on it at all, but I was able to get long in some low 113s on XBI. and obviously now XBI is trading up at 114.90. And if you look, if you just do the quick math, and the way you do the math, obviously grade 3 math here, Novavax 0.21% or 21% times the holdings of 3.31% will give you about a 0.7%, 0.8% move here in XBI. So right now, what I'm saying is XBI is up 1.1%. Novavax is 0.8% of that move. So it means the rest of the components are only going to be up 0.37% as a whole. So you're always looking at the market's up 0.55%. So is XBI up enough? Obviously biotech sometimes, move, and it's tech. So it's not up as much as the Q. So it's probably priced correctly now. But last night, absolutely priced wrong, because here was Novavax ripping higher. It was up like 15 points, and XBI was still trading down. I was like, well, that's dumb. So buy it and make some money.
All right, XBI, nice rebound there, trading just under 115, couple highs, but obviously watching your leader there in Novavax. Trying to press into the $200 level.
Let's go over to the merger.
Okay, merger.
Okay. Merger it is. We do have a deal, big deal, most notable deal we've had for a while here. Teladoc and Livongo are merging for an $18.5 billion deal. It is a cash and stock deal. Here is the stock portion of that deal. Each Livongo share will be exchanged for 0.592 shares of Teladoc plus cash considerations of $11.33. So you take the price of Teladoc, multiply it by 0.592, add $11.33. And that is where, based on when the deal closed, that is where Livongo should trade.
So not much of a premium, it doesn't look like here. I mean, Livongo is trading up, but only up 6%, and Teladoc is obviously trading down on this. So looking here, like I didn't even notice it until you had mentioned it to me, Spencer, because I'm looking, and this is just, to let you guys know, how do I find the movers in the morning? Well, I have a scanner, and it's scanning every single stock up there, and it ranks them all. And you can do this right in the Pro. And it ranks them all, and it tells you what is up, the most by percentages. So when you see a merger, you'll see one right at the top. So, it's up like 23%. It's like, oh, what's going on with that? There's a ton of stocks that are up 8% today or 6% today. So it's, LVGO just doesn't stand out. So if you're not listening to the news and you're just looking at your scanners, you might not even notice, that LVGO is like, oh, it's up $9. So I didn't even notice it. It's not a stock I trade a lot, LVGO. I do trade Teladoc, but I rarely trade LVGO. I will now because there's a deal. So give me that ratio one more time. I'm going to write it down.
The ratio point, you didn't write it down last time, 0.592.
I'm not that fast. 0.592. Okay, 0.592. So that's your ratio going forward. So Teladoc times 0.592 is going to equal your price of Livongo minus obviously the $11.33 of cash that you said, and in the time premium for the deal closing. So you can quickly do the math if you want to. I didn't do it, but I will after the show. And then you can track it. You put in a little Excel sheet. You can have it all tracking there for you. So, when it gets out, there's an opportunity there. Now, again, risk arbitrage, we know the high frequency trading bots in the middle of the day are pretty good at it, but sometimes there's some opportunities at the open. Sometimes there's some opportunities at the close. I don't know if it's a YouTube issue, Spencer, or what, but no, we're all having problems.
It's a Zoom issue, folks. It's the Zoom encoder is what we believe the issue is. So
should we get short Zoom because they aren't holding the pre-market prep show up there?
I'm not going to say don't do it. I'm not going to say do it. We are working feverishly in the back end here to try to diagnose the issue here and figure out solutions. So if you're having problems, I apologize. It's with the issues with Zoom's encoder. Nothing I can really do about that if we're going to use Zoom. But we're working on the issue. Just know that I apologize for any.
Because the show keeps dropping here today. So we are sorry for the show dropping.
Oh, really?
Just refresh.
What happened? And I'm Dennis. It's okay for me to say July ADP unemployment. They don't like it, right? They hit it a little bit. Spencer, give us the number.
Oh man, you're really throwing me under the bus here with the.
Sorry. All right. Payrolls are up 167,000. They must have been looking for a little bit more meat on the bone on that one. So, jobs number on Friday. I'm just telling you, we just had a little drop. I guess.
That's a pretty good drop.
Yeah,
it's coming back though. Buy the dip. Buy the dip.
Buy
the dip. Algos are there in like 2 seconds.
It's like, oh man. And also anyway.
Buy the dip. We just fell 5 points. Better buy the dip.
All right. What was I about to say?
I'm just going to say on this Teladoc thing, I think it's a
Okay.
good move by them. They're taking their cash and their money and nice stock
Well, they're
appreciation.
taking their stock price, Joel. They're not really taking their cash. It's only $11 cash. So telling you it's smart. It's a smart move to use stock. And it's what you often see, these companies that are really trading at lofty valuations. Why not use that stock?
Yep.
Good deal. Smart.
Yep, I do. So it got hit. They really hit it. It's well off the pre-market low. It got down to 230. I don't know. I don't know if you'll see that. That was a level on the dailies too. So I'll just kind of go with the camp that the longer it takes to get down to that 230 area, and I think you may see some buyers along the way, the more of a chance you rebound. 246, if you're looking for a resistance level, that's just on the 15-minute chart. 246 resistance. Early range, 230 to 246.
I remember what I wanted to say. We got a great question from one of our longtime listeners in the pre-market prep chat. So he's been long Livongo, LVGO for a while. He said guiding around the 60s. He bought a put spread to try to hedge himself before earnings. Okay, so he bought a vertical put spread that expire September 18th. He wants to know what's going to happen to his puts that expire in September now that Livongo is merging with Teladoc.
Nothing, because there's no way this deal closes before that date, I wouldn't think anyways, unless it's one of the fastest deals to close in history in 45 days. So I highly doubt that the deal closes by then. Again, if you're trading a Livongo, you got to watch price Teladoc now. It's going to be your leader. So TDOC tanks, LVGO is going to tank to that ratio of 0.592. If for whatever reason the merger did close quickly, let's say the merger closed September the 1st. It's not going to happen. They don't close that fast. But if it closed in September 1st, and he has the September expiration on Livongo, Spencer?
Yeah, yep, September 18th.
So you got September 18th. What would happen is the stock will obviously cease to trade, and the options would cease to trade on September the 1st. So you would have to exercise them by that time in order to take advantage of the pricing. So if you're in the money, you want to exercise them on the last day that obviously the stock is going to trade. So that's the consideration, is that the options would stop trading the same day that the stock stops trading. But again, that's not going to happen because I highly doubt that this merger closes in 6 weeks. They just don't close that quickly. So no problems. You just watch Teladoc. It's going to be your leader, and that will now pull the price of LVGO around.
Yep, they did say the deal will close next quarter. So
it'd be pretty fast.
Yeah.
The next quarter would be, so actually next quarter is October, November, December, correct?
Yep. So
that's past your September date, so I don't think you need to worry too much.
Yep. So, but a really good question.
It is a good question. I mean, when you have options, you've got the option to exercise. So you got to watch. And I mean, if your stock stops trading, and and can you exercise it after the stock stops trading? I would think so. So, and then you would be entitled to exercise and get whatever that closing price is. So that actually is a good question, to look at the scenario where, okay, well, the merger is closed. I still have options open here now. Can I exercise them after the fact and then get that closing price? I wouldn't hold them that long. If you got to watch the dates, when you got those options, if the merger is going to close before your expiration date, exercise them before your expiration date. Don't hold them past those dates, because we saw what happened with the DKNG warrants we were talking about before, and they're going to expire and they're in the money and you don't exercise them. Well, that's on you. So they were nice and they extended the date because nobody realized that they had bumped up the date on those warrants, but you've got to watch those expiration dates. And when you're in puts on a stock that's merging, make sure that the stock merger isn't going to close before. And if it does, exercise. If your puts are in the money, exercise them on that last day. Don't let it, don't even take it through and then trying to call your broker and try and exercise something when the options aren't trading anymore and the stock has ceased trading. That's asking for trouble. So don't put yourself in trouble. Just watch your dates. The closing date will eventually be announced. Again, they're saying next quarter, so that's after October. So our listener isn't going to have a problem with the September puts, but that's something to consider when you're holding options.
All right. Let's move on to earnings here. We got a lot to get to on the earnings front. I want to start with Activision Blizzard quickly here, just do some quick education. So just first, before I even get to that, I'll give you the numbers. Activision, all you really need to know is it was a great report. They beat on their EPS, beat on their sales. Now, if you were on Twitter last night, you may have seen Benzinga taking some heat. We mistakenly misreported that the EPS number was a miss when it was a beat. Actually, I want to share my screen for a second here,
Sure.
just so I can show how the way these video game companies do their accounting is a little bit unusual. So this is what the filing looks like in Benzinga Pro. This is how ATVI, EA, Take-Two, they all do this. They break down their GAAP net revenue, and then there is this impact of GAAP deferrals row. It makes it a little bit confusing for anyone going through. This is real inside baseball stuff. All you really need to know is that these video game companies do some weird accounting, and it can sometimes make it tricky to determine whether they beat or they missed. So we mistakenly said that they missed when they beat. That's point number one. Point number two is, if you see ATVI this morning, you notice it's down, right? So this is a great lesson for anyone trading earnings that we talk about on our show all the time. Just because a report is amazing or they blow it away, it was a huge beat, does not mean the stock has to go up. Just because it was a huge miss does not mean the stock has to go down. In ATVI's case, it was a beat yesterday. The sales were good. The EPS was good. And the stock is down. One other thing I'll add is, because of this weird accounting, it can make the analyst estimates a little bit wonky and not necessarily comparable. So it's really, you really want to look at a more of a year-over-year comparison than the analyst comparison. But that's my spiel on ATVI. These video game companies are all tricky with their accounting, the way they do the GAAP deferral line. So just be careful of that.
So you guys issued a correction after.
Yeah, so we issued a correction.
And
just so be aware of that, and also be aware this is a great lesson for anyone trading earnings. Stock doesn't have to go up just because they beat.
And obviously Take-Two set the bar really high. We talked about this on the show yesterday specifically, that ATVI was really going to have to blow it away because Take-Two now has really set the bar high. And they beat, and it's a nice beat, but they didn't beat by enough. And yes, Benzinga posts the wrong number and, then issues a correction. I mean, it's kind of like the referee in a sporting event. You always, blame the referee when they make the mistake and they're like, call for their head. But you don't, people don't naturally look at the 99% of the time they get the call right. I mean, Benzinga does a pretty good job, and mistakes happen. It's still humans that are entering the numbers here, and sometimes it could be even a keystroke mistake. Sometimes, like you said, it's confusing accounting, and they post the wrong numbers. So Dave Portnoy, I'll just read his tweet, said, "Dear Benzinga, why did you post false earnings for ATVI? How much did you buy when you posted the wrong info? That's absurd."
And then he added
first
suits.
of all, nobody
he added suits. The only time I wear a suit is for a funeral.
Oh, yeah, Benzinga's not suits. We are not suits.
I wear
suit.
them for a funeral, or I wear them for religious services, and I don't even have to wear them for religious services this year because they're remote. I don't get that at all. I don't get the suits thing.
We're definitely not suits, but obviously there's no nefarious activities here where Benzinga's posting a fake number and everybody's buying, and then we're going to manipulate it. Come on. So, that's called jail sentence. You're doing stuff like that.
I think it's a compliment. If you're saying that we have the power to manipulate the stock down,
Benzinga isn't the only, this is a press release too. So, and this is how it works. There's obviously a lot of companies, a lot of news companies that are reporting these earnings. So Benzinga isn't just the only one that's reporting this. So it isn't like, oh, Benzinga posted the wrong number and the stock's going to tank farther than it should have because of Benzinga posted the wrong number. This is a press release. The algos are reading the PR. So, and they're interpreting it, just like how we interpret it, there's algos interpreting it as well in their own way. So what the price is the price. It wasn't manipulated. It wasn't going to be influenced because, one news company posted the wrong number at first.
For sure. I don't think any one company has the power on an earnings report to manipulate the stock up or down.
Not on an earnings report. I mean, if they were breaking, and we see this, you want to talk about nefarious stuff where you get some of these smaller publications, posting some fake, or some rumor, and then if people, oh, there's a rumor that this thing's going to get bought, and then it doesn't materialize, and people are shorting into that, like that know that it's not a real rumor. That's nefarious activities.
All right, so
on a PR, there's nothing bad happening.
Joe, why don't you give us some numbers, and then this is a good segue into what happened to Square. So let's do ATVI here, and then we'll talk about Square next.
Well, ATVI. Well, I just want to say one thing. If you're looking at this stock and you've been following it a long time, and you're waiting for the release of the earnings to buy it or sell it, I mean, there's a lot of other times that you could be participating in the stock. Instead, at the most volatile time where the biggest boys and the other sharks are out there. So I just wanted to add that. I mean, we talked about this yesterday. The bar was set very high, made
Yes.
a new all-time high yesterday. You're trading down $1.40. I'm not even going to look at the pre-market trading. I'm just going to give you the closing price from yesterday, and that is going to be a big number because that was your all-time closing high price, 86.45. So if we manage to rally $1.40, I imagine you see some sellers there, as well as the all-time high at 87.04. On the downside, you haven't even taken out yesterday's low. So I don't know what everyone's all upset about. As long as you hold 83.95, we'll go up and test the close. And then you can just look at your 2-day low at 82.87. So that's the technicals on that one.
All right, well, let's go into Square. If you had your earnings calendar up and you saw Square report last night, you would probably be confused because Square was not on the calendar to report last night. But
Yeah.
that doesn't always matter because this happens like every few years, every 2 to 3 years, an earnings report.
It happens more than that.
Okay.
It happens a few times a year for sure on
Fine.
smaller companies that aren't Square.
Okay.
But it happens. Earnings
Right.
reports leak.
Well, Square's earnings report leaked last night. Dennis thinks it was, I think you're right. I think it was
Bloomberg broke it.
So
and then they're like, oh, it's out there. So
Yep.
then Square and how the backstory to this is like my buddy like tweets at me, he's like, Square just reported. I was like, what are you talking about? I'm like, it reports tomorrow night. And he's like, no, it's right here. And he sent me the numbers. I was like, I'm looking at it and I was like, well, it's not moving. You know, it's not really moving yet. Are you sure those are the numbers? Like we're just discussing it actually. and I'm like, I go and I check the press release. There's no press release. I'm like, no,
Yep.
there's no way it reported. That has to be an old number. And then it starts blasting off. And I was like, oh my, it did report. And there is no press release. And then they issue the presser because obviously it was reported. I don't know if it's Bloomberg. Somebody said it was Bloomberg that got the number, published it. And then the PR comes out because Square realizes that, hey, our earnings are out there. We got to issue a press release now because our earnings are out there. So somebody, somehow, I don't know if it's Bloomberg that got it or somebody, you know, tipped off Bloomberg and then sent it to Bloomberg.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how Bloomberg ended up with it, but I believe it was Bloomberg that first published it.
Yep.
And then everybody's, you know, scrambling around. So I'm looking at it and literally it did not move for a minute after, you know, I was like, after it had apparently reported because there was no PR. So there's no algo trading off the press release. And it's just if you've got a Bloomberg terminal, and obviously a lot of traders at 7 o'clock at night, you know, that maybe don't have the $2,500 a year for a Bloomberg terminal. In any regard, it wasn't moving for a good minute, and then it blasted off. So you had some time, but you know, it's again news interpretation, earnings interpretation. Sometimes you know you see a big beat like ATVI and stock actually goes down. So I was actually short the stock. Square.
Really?
I was actually short it, and then this numbers and all this stuff. I was like, I'm just going to cover it because I don't know what's going on. So, you know, and I've heard, you know, obviously it says Bloomberg's reported the earnings. So I just covered it and I covered it at 137.5. And thank goodness I did. So, and obviously the stock went up to, I didn't go long. I just didn't know what was going on because somebody has said they reported. So I covered and obviously they had reported, Bloomberg had, and obviously stock went up a lot since then. So lucky I got covered.
So yeah, here are the numbers courtesy of Bloomberg. Q2
You see
EPS.
the guy in the mailroom.
Q2 EPS on Square 18 cents. Estimate was all the way down at a 5-cent loss. Revenue 1.92 versus $1.3 billion. Payments were up significantly last quarter. So good report for Square. And
Yeah,
154.
significant.
Yeah, I'll just say 154. That's it. It's my only number. One number. Dennis, you can give whatever numbers you want, but that's a
Oh,
pre-market
$150. But I mean, you look at this thing and it's been up the entire after-hour session. It was up, you know, in the pre-market the whole session. So it's holding on. It's not like it's chopping
it's
around.
not.
It kind of priced and it's kind of holding up here. I bought PayPal off it last night. I've already sold it because it popped a couple of dollars. But PayPal obviously often has sympathy moves with that. It was a little tricky because Paycom was down. And not that PayPal and Square are much more related, but Paycom's come back.
What's
here now, but it's
Paycom?
right now.
PCYM or something?
AYC.
EAYC, and they had earnings and they missed on their EPS and they missed on their sales and their guidance guidance was okay, but they're light on the earnings.
It's a lot of juggling of the balls last night, but when Square blasted off and started blasting off on the earnings report, I was like, I'll buy some PayPal. So I was able to get a little bit of PayPal. Not a lot. I mean, it's after hours. You just can't get that much stock. So, but then it popped over $2 and I was like, okay, well, I'll take the money and run.
What I'll give that support 148, 154 to 148. Early numbers in Square SQ. What a move in that one, huh?
Big move.
All
So
right.
247 stocks reporting today. Again, we can go wherever you want to go. We're going to get Gene Munster here in 4 minutes. If you want to get in a couple more earnings stocks here, though, it's probably the time to do it right now. Where do you want to go?
I do. I want to go to Disney. And before I even give you the numbers,
it's half an hour in, and the House of Mouse just finally gets some love on Benzinga.
I want to know, Dennis, I want to know, are you going to rent Mulan on Disney Plus for $30?
Are you just getting a rental, or do you get it forever then? You must get it forever. It must just be on your Disney Plus, or do you get like a one-time watch for $30? So how's that work? Because I thought that right away, because I'm like, my kids would probably like to watch it, but I might rent it, but $30 seems pretty steep.
That's a good question. I assumed it was like a one-time purchase, like a one-time rental is what I had thought. But I guess
must be a pretty awesome movie that they're going to charge $30 for.
Wasn't that already out, Mulan?
No, they were delaying it. It was ready. So
did they have is this a second Mulan 2 or something?
Oh, okay. It does act as a purchase. So you're buying it essentially.
You're buying the movie. You have the movie forever then on Disney Plus.
Yep. So $30 for one movie.
If it was $5, I'd probably buy it. $30 sold to you. I'm not buying them. And maybe if my kids were dying, the biggest Mulan fans, they don't care. I mean, they're 3 and 5, so they'll watch the free stuff and just like it just as much. So no, the answer is no to your question.
Lucky you. All right, Disney numbers, earnings per share last quarter. They made 8 cents. They did some adjustments to get there. The estimate was way off. Sales more comparable, $11.78 billion versus a $12.39 billion estimate. Obviously, the parks revenue way down. I think that saw down 80% or some number like that. Disney Plus subscribers up. They reported a little over 57 million subscribers as of the end of June. Kind of the saving grace there for the company, but we knew it'd be bad.
Yeah, the numbers were terrible, but it doesn't matter because this market finds a silver lining. And Disney subs were up, so we'll find a reason to ram these shorts, and we'll find a reason to buy this stock. And here's a situation where the company was operating on 1 cylinder as opposed to 6 cylinders, and the stock's still going higher. I mean, the short thesis here has just been fired, and they're going to give Disney a pass on everything. They've cut the dividend to 0 for the first time, I believe, ever. They're trying to hold on to cash because they don't know how long the virus is going to go. The parks are a mess. Everything's a mess. But it doesn't matter because we've got a few people watching Disney Plus. This market finds a silver lining, finds a reason to buy the stock. Do I want to own the stock at $125? No, because it was $125 last year when they had Disney Plus, when they had all the parks, and when we didn't have a virus. So if you're buying it here now at $125, it seems just dumb. But anyways, it's been dumb. Dumb money's been working here on this for a long time. I think the thing should be a lot lower, but it doesn't matter what I think. It doesn't matter what I think. So as a trader, I don't want to be short it for the same reasons. So I'm just out. I don't understand why it's on $125, and I will, intraday trade it. I'll day trade it, but it's not going to my long-term investment portfolio, not at this price.
You had the dip in the rip, and I like what I'm seeing. I can give you some resistance levels. 125.70 is the pop where you went to. That it just coincides perfectly with a daily high at 125.79 on June 9th. And if you're looking for more meat on the bone and that's not enough for you, there's a pair of highs from the 5th and 8th at 127.82 and 127.44 if you're looking for more profit. Then, Dennis, that was the day when you made your American Airlines call, too, when that stock topped out. So you're already back to that area. Couple of as far as support, just based on the 15-minute here, it looks like you got a little buyer 124, but I certainly wouldn't lean on that for a long.
Overall, it's very impressive how well Disney has held up, and you knew it was going to hold up better than the other ones because it's got the name, it's got the franchise. We know they'll be able to raise capital. There's no way Disney is going to have solvency issues or anything like that, where, you look at the airlines and you look at that, it's like, how long can they survive? Disney survived forever. It's the name. When we get past the virus, this is still an awesome franchise. And, maybe we're pricing, but I would think, where the situation that we're in, we'd be able to get Disney stock a hell of a lot cheaper. The time to buy it was back in March when I was very concerned the parks were closed. But, here we are. And obviously it's a completely different story here now, where it's looking like, first of all, that the virus isn't as deadly as we once thought. Secondly, is that we've got vaccines on the way. So I can see to a certain extent why some of the reopening plays are starting to get favor. I just don't think you're buying it at much of a discount. If you want to play reopening stocks and you really think we're coming back, there's a lot cheaper stocks in Disney.
Yeah, and reopening plays are hot because we're getting a lot of drug news today. We'll talk about that after Gene, but I want to bring our guest on now, Gene Munster. He's a managing partner at Loup Ventures, long time analyst on the street. Gene, good morning.
Good morning.
How are we doing this morning? Joining us by phone. How are we doing?
Doing fantastic. Just an honor to be with you, and just love hearing how you guys view the world. And what a fun day today with all these earnings.
I don't really know how we view the world.
Yeah. Well, everyone knows Gene Munster, Loup Ventures, longtime fan of the show. I just want to give, before we go into all these individual reports and all the great reports and everything, I mean, would these stocks, Apple and Facebook and Microsoft, would they be at the same levels if we didn't have the COVID-19 crisis?
I think they would be at different levels. Most of them would be at different levels. Obviously, what we've seen with Amazon and Netflix is just remarkable. Amazon, in fact, has a sustainable tailwind from this. So the business is in a better position longer term. I think that Apple, with or without the pandemic, would be moving higher going into 5G, but I think there's even a stronger case that it goes higher yet based on, again, kind of sustainable tailwinds. And then you have Facebook and Google, and they're a little bit more of a mystery to me. These are advertising businesses. I'm surprised that they've kind of seen the rebound that they have, and ultimately their businesses don't have, in my view, don't have a long-term sustainable tailwind from the pandemic. And so that's kind of how we think about it in a nutshell, is that the companies that have been best positioned for the future, I think that has accelerated and stepped up, and the other ones I think have been fortunate in the near term to be enjoying the benefit of the lift in the market.
Gene, talk about that sustainable tailwind. So obviously, we know everybody's shopping on Amazon because they don't want to go to the stores, and obviously some of the stores are closed in some cases. Why do you think the tailwind is sustainable, though? Like let's say we get the vaccine. Do you think Amazon is still going to be firing all cylinders? Do you think there's people, just consumer habits changing?
Consumer habits are changing, and what this did was it was essentially some people refer to it as blitzkrieg. Some people refer to it as going into ludicrous mode. And essentially what you're doing is you're getting people that traditionally would have taken a little bit more time to experience some of their products. A great example is kind of Whole Foods Delivered or Prime Now, and some of these more fast delivery services that only Amazon can do. And so you have people who tend to be slow to adopt, have been forced to adopt. And now they're, so you're bringing that curve forward. But what is the sustainable tailwind beyond that? Is that by moving the curve forward, by pulling that in, by giving people motivation to try some of these services out, it really opens up what are these still large markets. And sure, your viewers are aware that e-commerce in the U.S. is still relatively small. Some estimates have it as high as 20% of total commerce, some as low as 10%. And so, but ultimately that's probably 50%. So that's an example of a sustainable tailwind. It's pretty fun to look at the numbers, the percentage of goods bought online, excluding gas, in the U.S. It had been trading up by about 1% a year. So it was 9% a few years ago, 10, 11% in 2019. And the most in the June quarter, in the month of May, it was 40%. 40 was the percentage of commerce that was online. And so what you have is this massive injection of people trying these out that is a sustainable tailwind for Amazon.
Gene, I want to ask you about Apple here. I was reading a blog post on your site. They blew away your expectations, but beyond all that, what was your reaction to the stock split?
I was surprised. They've done these in the past, and but I guess I was surprised just because they don't traditionally think a lot about their stock. I think they think a lot about running the business, and so that did surprise me. It is I think mathematically it's a fractional positive for the stock, but I was surprised.
And then as far as the report itself, how did they blow you away? What did they do to blow you away?
There were two things. I guess in order of importance is the iPhone number. Hard for me to wrap my head around. I've seen other iPhone reports, and when they reported their quarter, this one was more notable because we were looking for down 20% revenue year over year. This for iPhone. The street was down 15%. It ended up being up 2%. And our view was that shelter in place to benefit Mac and iPad, but not have as big of an impact on iPhone. And what we saw was that was not the case. So that really stood out. The second piece was the magnitude of the beat on the iPad. I mean, this is like go-go days of the Mac up 20+%, iPad up 31%. It's a throwback in terms of the growth rates. So we would have expected those numbers to be more around 10, 15%, something around the order of those magnitudes. That's not as big of a surprise because a lot of companies that are benefiting from this are just blowing the numbers out, Netflix, Amazon. But that iPhone number really stood out. A second piece is even beyond the quarter, just going forward, is that it really sets a precedent that their loyalty of their base, and this base has been holding on their phones for a long time. They are ready for upgrades, and it's a big base, close to 1 billion active iPhones globally, which means that you get a natural tailwind from, or natural benefit, I should say, for the next year about people just needing to upgrade their phones. And then you get the 5G benefit, which could last 2 or 3 years, much different than a typical iPhone cycle, which is a year. And so the other piece that I took away from really surprised me, just letting it all kind of soak in, is that this company could be, iPhone could be growing high single, low double digits for the next 3 years, and it's been flat to downish for the last 2 years.
Let me go to Amazon here, and I mean they just absolutely blew it away. $1.46 versus that was the estimate. They come in at 10.30. I mean, how is that going to be, moving forward for estimates? And I'm also looking at the reaction in the stock too. You think with those kind of numbers, you'd go right back to an all-time high. Just talk about the price reaction and just expectations going forward. I mean, you want the pandemic to end, and that's going to be, or at least slow down or subside. That's going to be bad. Talk about gauging Amazon moving forward and the price action.
It's an expensive stock, and a lot gets priced in. And I think that their business is going to be a long-term sustainable tailwind. I think that online commerce is going to go up. I think they're going to be more impactful in traditional retail, brick and mortar, which they've done very little. Whole Foods and 30+ other Go stores. So I think that there is a lot to be a strong case that this stock can continue to go higher. The price action to me is dependent on the valuation, and it is not as high as, like, for example, Zoom, but we're talking when your PE starts pushing above 100 when the comp group is closer to 30, that ends up being a problem. I think you see some of that price action. Said a slightly different way, it's a really difficult stock to trade. You can know it even if you knew what the numbers were. It's sometimes hard to predict what the stock is going to do. And I think that ultimately creates a situation. This is probably one for a long-term holder versus a trader.
Gene, we got a lot more questions, not a lot of time, so I want to go through them quick. What were your reactions to, you follow esports and that industry close? What were your reactions to Activision Blizzard, Take-Two, and those reports?
Thrilled. I think what's going on in esports is we're just scratching the surface too, and some of it is shelter in place related, but other is just a different way of being entertained, and I think all these companies are going to benefit.
And we've been getting a lot of questions in our chat about Jumaya, and deservedly so, because the stock is just in rocket ship mode, or at least it was before.
Yep.
But talk to us about Jumaya. We don't know anything about the company fundamentally, so explain that story to us.
So I do own the stock. I own it, and I'm more of a believer that the stock action has been, to me, it's there's creates a lot of noise around what ultimately they're due. It's just over $1 billion market cap, call it 1.3 billion. It has probably the best chance of really consolidating e-commerce in Africa. Obviously, that's a lot smaller than Latin America, where Mercado Libre is relevant, and Amazon elsewhere. But the bottom line is, think of this as Mercado Libre or Amazon of Africa. They're not in every country. They're in the most important countries. Nigeria is their biggest market. So what I think you have to put in the context here is this: it went public, I think, closer to $35, something in that order, $40, not that long ago, maybe a year or so ago. And then there was some concern that they would run out of cash, and that's what caused that dramatic drop. So when I kind of see what's going on, I instead of looking at the stock price, I tend to think about it. What's the right market cap for this company? And Tencent, you think about, I mean, these are massive, massive companies. Again, Africa is not China. It's not U.S. It's not Latin America. They have some unique complications about their business, but I do feel longer term, again, I own the stock, but I feel longer term, it's worth more than $1.3 billion where it is today.
We're on the line with Gene Munster at Loup Ventures. We got to get to the one stock that we debated for a long time, and you've come out on the right end on this one, Tesla. I just want to talk about, the earnings report. Oh boy, it looks kind of sleepy here on the chart. But also like this electrical vehicle craze. I mean, if, with all these different companies and everything that's going on, I mean, Tesla's king. Do you see any of these other, companies seriously making a dent into their market share? And then also on that one, I'd just like you to compliment also on Livent Corp, related to the batteries and the charging.
Love it. So on the EV side, it's still a small percentage of cars globally in the U.S. that are EV. About 5% this year will be EVs. Eventually, it will be 100%. And then that begs the question we won't go into that topic, but feel strongly that eventually it will be 100%. The competition is one that we've been waiting for. And there's a catch-22 when you think about competition in auto, is that right now, traditional auto isn't making as many EVs. They have collectively, besides Tesla, it's 20% share. Tesla has 80% share in the U.S. And so they're not making them at scale. And that creates a manufacturing problem because it's expensive to make them. So the problem that traditional auto has is that if they make a car at parity with features with a Tesla, they're going to lose money. And if they make a car where they make money, they produce a car, they're going to make money, then they're going to be priced out of the market. They'll be 25 or 35% more expensive and people won't buy it. So there is this question about how long does traditional auto manufacturers, what kind of investment phase do they want to make? Is it 6 months? Is it 5 years into essentially subsidizing the vehicles? And do they have the balance sheets to do that? They tend to be more levered businesses. So that's the catch-22, and that's why if you would have asked me 2 years ago, I would have said Tesla's market share is 80% in the U.S., and eventually it will go to 15%. I'm in the camp now that I don't know what the exact number is, but it's going to be a lot higher than 15%.
All right, Gene Munster.
Livent.
Yeah, Livent.
Livent. Yeah. Elon Musk said it all on the call, is that this if you can find someone who manufactures lithium, I want it. We need lithium. That's what Livent Corp is. They're based in the U.S. They mine globally, but I think that it's an arms supplier to the arms race. The stock has not done as much as what I would have expected it to do, but I still believe that lithium is a critical part of the future, whether it's electrification of cars or batteries in the home. And I think that Livent Corp is going to be a beneficiary of that longer term.
Gene Munster is a managing partner and one of the founding partners, actually, of Loup Ventures. You can learn more by going to their site, loupventures.com. Gene, as always, we appreciate the time. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Bye for now.
All right. Thanks, Gene.
Always great to hear from Gene. Let's bang out a couple more before we wrap up today. I want to get to Nikola.
Nikola.
We don't always post the earnings. We don't always post the analyst estimates in Benzinga Pro because sometimes they're just out of whack. I think the founder of Nikola is also agreeing with us this morning. He tweeted last night about I guess he's criticizing the sell side analysts who cover Nikola, if there are, I don't know how many of them there are. There can't be that many. Saying they had the wrong share count that screwed up their estimates. So he's saying they actually beat on their earnings. I'm not saying whether they beat or they missed. I'm just saying that they lost more money last quarter than they did in the same quarter a year ago. They lost 16 cents per share last quarter. They lost 13 cents per share in the same quarter the year prior. Sales, I don't even think, okay, I'll read it. It's $36,000 is what they made last quarter in total revenue. That's up, I guess, from
$36,000, like thousand.
$36,000.
I guess they don't sell anything, so
they don't sell anything.
Yeah.
So that's
how'd they get the 36 grand?
That's up on a year-over-year.
How'd they get the 36 grand? They sold one truck.
I don't know, but it's up on a year-over-year basis. They reaffirmed their timeline to start production of the Nikola tray in Q4 of next year. That's kind of the most important thing here. Nobody in this stock cares about what they did last quarter. So the losses don't really matter. It's all about the timeline for production. They reaffirmed that. So that's important.
I mean, is there any founder that cares more about their stock price than this guy?
I don't know.
I just mean he's out here concerned about the sell side analysts and like trying to, basically get his stock price to go back up. I mean, holy mackerel, don't be so promotional on your stock. Anyways, the story is hot. The story is cold a little bit. Now it's hot again. I don't know. Like, is this worth, General Motors market cap? And it's the same thing with Tesla. We argued for a long time that it wasn't, and obviously it was. Is this another Tesla? That's a question. I don't know if anybody knows the answer to this. But the electrification of cars is not going away. Gene's absolutely correct. I think it could be 100% too.
Yeah. Yep.
So, so this is going to be the truck maker. Obviously, there's a bunch of these plays out there. People want us to talk about NIO as well. I mean, there's so many, and obviously all the big three are, and obviously all the Toyota and everybody else you're looking at too is going to be moving into electrification of cars. So there is a lot of competition coming. Who's going to be the next Tesla's Nikola? I don't think anybody knows the answer to that question, but this is all on hype. This is all on hope. This story is on hope. And maybe it turns into something, but it just got silly when it got to $90. It got absolutely overdone, absolutely silly, and now it's back to reality here. So is it going back to 90 anytime soon? I don't think so. Is it going to continue to leak down? I would say your critical number, which we gave to you 3 days ago, is $29.
Yeah.
That's where it has to hold. If it does not hold there, it could be at $20 in a hurry. So if you're, buying the dip here, you don't want to see this under 29.
And I'll give you another number. Remember when I gave you 37 in Kodak, and then when it was trading at 41, and I said, hey, if it holds, 37 is my number. If it holds 37, hey, why not go back to 60? If it doesn't hold 37, boom, I think we're going down. And that number actually ended up playing out really well that day. Well, I'm going to give you a number today and moving forward here for NKLA, and that number is $34. And it's just a simple number. You don't have to be a genius. You had to move from 29 to basically 39. 50% is 34. It's right in that area. If the Bulls, if the Bulls are true to themselves, they're going to hold the stock. This is going to hold 34. It's going to rally. It's going to go, I don't know if it can go green on the day. But if not, and I think all the people that going to get caught in that run from 30 to 40 are going to get snuffed out. So long term, keep an eye on 34 in NKLA.
People talking space still too.
Man, okay.
Have we got the offering price? I've not seen it go by. So this is not going to get a lift until we at least know the offering price. Did we get it last night?
I didn't see it.
I didn't see it either. So obviously I'm still long the stock. And like I said, I would be buying it close to that offering price if I didn't own it already. I already own it. I believe in the story. I think the story eventually gets hot again, but it's cold right now. Obviously the earnings weren't great, but the more thing was that they did the secondary. They need to raise money because they are going to be taking on a hell of a lot of expenses to do what they want to do. So I like buying companies that are raising money to grow. I don't like buying companies that are raising money to survive. So there's a big difference between growing and surviving, and Space obviously raising money in order to grow. So this is the kind of stock I own it. Yeah, it sucks that, it's went from $27 back down to 20. I'm in from 16. I'm thinking about adding to my position, even getting bigger in it. So I need to see that offering price though. So it's not going to just blast off and come right back. We need to see what that offering price is, and I haven't seen it yet. Like if price is down at 17 or 18, your $20 buy is going to suck. So that's why we need to know where that pricing is going to be.
They're feeling the
if
street
somebody
out.
has in the chat, I have not seen the pricing yet though.
There has been no PR or filing about it. So
no. So we're waiting on the pricing still. We should get it probably tonight.
All right, question from the chat about Wayfair. They reported this morning, just to tell you how, to my point earlier about how out of whack analyst estimates are in this kind of market that we're in right now. The adjusted EPS for Wayfair last quarter was $3.13. Analyst estimate was at 95 cents. There's no way that's comparable in any way, shape, or form. They've obviously doing some sort of adjustments there. Sales 4.3 versus $4.04 billion. That's way more comparable. So they beat on their sales number. We had a hunch they would do that. The street clearly thinking they were going to beat anyway. The stock's been a monster. I did not see what it's doing today though.
It's pulling back. So this is a stock that was priced for perfection, quarter fine, doesn't matter. This is just, it's run so much.
Oh my
like, look at this thing. You want to talk about a stock, there's probably no better performer out of like the big guns. I mean, this thing got down during obviously the crisis that we just went through. It got down to in March $21. It's now $290. The thing's up 1,200% in 3 months. So this has been the most incredible run ever. Can it continue? Trend is absolutely your friend, but bring up those stocks because eventually there's going to be some type of ugly washout. This has been just too easy for the longs. So eventually it's not like it's going straight to 500 or 600. There's going to be some ugly washout here somewhere. I don't know when that's coming. It's down $10 today. Everybody loves the stock right now. It's still in favor. I'd be looking at 274 as a possible bounce area there. But this is just such a tough stock to trade because it's all air everywhere.
Yeah, let's go. Let's split the two lows of the last few sessions. 272.10, 274.63. Call that 273 and change. That's $8 away. Big level to hold. What I don't like about if it takes out that area, if you're buying it there, where do you go? Do you ride it down to 259 or 239? I mean, tough.
I don't know how to control the risk on this, and that's why you're exactly right, Joel. I don't know how to control the risk, and that's why I'm just out. I'm not trading it.
Yep, decent volume. 500,000 shares have traded in the red by 985 at 281.
All right, didn't even mention a couple of the drug news. Well, we mentioned Novavax, but Moderna, they had earnings this morning. They also said they've received $400 million in customer deposits, and their phase 3 study is on track to be completed by the end of September. We also got J&J this morning announcing that they came to an agreement with the U.S. government for 100 million doses of their potential COVID vaccine.
Just vaccine news all over the place.
Vaccine news all over the place.
And the main thing to take from that is you're going to see relative strength in the reopening plays. So tech is going to be relatively weak. It's not even up here. QQQ is up 15 cents. And IWM is trading up over 1%. So the play, at least this morning, is long the reopening stock, short the stay-at-home stocks. That's the play. Those trades keep rotating in. But we've seen that rotation for the last couple of days. This isn't just something that just started last night.
We talked about it
yesterday morning. The rotation was starting to turn a little bit there. So does it continue to turn here? Well, at least off the open it does. American Airlines, if you're trading that, $12, absolutely huge number there. Bumped its head up there a couple of times. It's up at 1180. Yep. It's a big number for it.
Yeah, looking at that. Let's see if the cruise lines, I know they were getting battered a little bit.
Yeah, they're lifting on it.
Yeah, lifting a little bit. You have identifiable out here at the 2-day low in Carnival, and just same thing here. RCL is the bigger mover. I mean, it's just kind of, maybe sellers are tired. Look at that 45 level was a rock there. It didn't quite get there. So if you want to give yourself a little bit more room, if you're picking it up at 50, all kinds of support at 45.
All right, Joel, you're probably not aware of this, but during our show, the Big Ten announced their football schedule, if there is a season. So Michigan's playing Ohio State October 24th, if there is a season.
October 24th?
If there's a season, gigantic caveat on that.
It's not going to be the last game of the season.
Will not be the last game of the season. If there is a season, I cannot stress that enough. If there is a season.
Wow.
Yeah. All right. I apologize for all.
I gotta go.
Issues today.
Yeah, we're gonna get those fixed for you folks. It's terrible that the show keeps dropping. It's doing it on my end here too. So I guess it's a Zoom issue. Spencer's on it. He's gonna get it fixed for tomorrow. So
we are on it. We appreciate the patience. We haven't had any issues like this previously, so we're gonna look into Zoom today and figure out what's going on. Thanks to our guest today, Gene Munster. Please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We appreciate that as always, and please remember all the information from our show is meant to be used as informational purposes and not for investing or trading advice. Everyone have a great rest of your day. Joel and I will see you in the afternoon. Same place, our YouTube channel. Have a good one.